Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us for another episode of the Cosmopolite Collective. We are your hosts, Diana Lordson and Erykah Goslin. And today we will be interviewing the fabulous Brandie with two eyes, Honeybee Daniels, flight attendant and travel extraordinaire, who is going to give us the lowdown on everything that you've wanted to know about being a flight attendant. What are they really thinking when they're on the plane? And what do they do when they're back there? I have no idea. So we're going to ask Brandie all of the questions, and she's going to give us all of
Here for it.
the fun details and some of the spicy ones too. So welcome, Brandie.
Welcome. Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to do this interview. So thank you for the
Yes, we're
invitation
so
from the book.
excited. So I want to just back up a little bit because I've known you for a long time. And
21 years?
it's been maybe over 20 years. I'm not even sure.
Yeah, it's been over 20 years. 2002.
Yes, we went to college together. We've had crazy times. We can get into all of that later. But I wanted to ask you a few questions because you've obviously traveled the world. You've been to
Mhm.
so many different countries. I'm really jealous of your lifestyle. But
But so have you. So have you,
I
though.
have traveled a lot, probably not as much as you, but
Mhm.
I want to rewind a little bit just to kind of learn more about what made you decide to be a flight attendant. I remember in college you were into nursing and then psychology and then all of these things.
Uh-huh.
Where did flight attendant come into play?
Very interesting. So the first time I got my passport, I was a guest on the Oprah Winfrey Show. And I got invited to be a part of the audience that went to Australia with her for eight
Hmm.
days. And so, in order to go there, I needed my passport. And so, I just fell in love with traveling. And then one day, I was just at home. I was in St. Louis at the time, and I was selling life insurance. And I stalked Oprah's life, and it was something on Oprah.com, and she asked for a submission of like why you love her, and I told the story, sent it to her, and she actually read it. And so I got invited to be a part of the audience. My mom was with me, so she got to go to Australia
I
as well.
remember that.
And then I moved to DC, and I just decided that I wanted to travel so much, but why not get paid for it? And so one day I was just on United.com and became a flight attendant.
Wow. No, and
Hmm.
it's so funny. I forgot that you were on the Oprah Winfrey Show. I don't know how I forgot that because I actually saw the episode that you were on,
Hmm.
or the episodes,
Hmm.
I should say, that you were on. It was amazing. Talk about a life-changing experience.
Yeah, it was amazing. So yeah, after I got my passport for the first time, and that was the first time I actually was had the experience of going in the ocean, and so I was like, I need to see the ocean like forever, like it's like once a month at least, and so that's why I became a flight
You
attendant.
know, it's funny too because I remember you went on a trip to India, and I remember you posting
Yes.
pictures, and it was this life-changing event. And I
Mhm.
remember you came back and you seemed different. What happened on that trip?
So I was celebrating. I think it was my 31st birthday, and I didn't want to just go lollygagging and have like a drunk time the whole time. I wanted to do something that was for me, and so I went to Rishikesh. It's on the foothills of the Himalayas for a month and a half. Got my yoga certification, but the biggest part that I really took from that was really finishing thoughts. And what I mean by that, a lot of the times we'll pick up our phone or something will create a distraction. And that was one of the those 6 weeks where I completed a lot of thoughts that without any distraction at all, no telephone, no email. And this was pre like when Instagram was like so addicting, and Facebook was the higher priority. So it was wonderful, and I did come back different. I think the biggest difference was just having peace and learning my body more as a Black woman.
Nice. And you still, I've seen that change in you, but I would say it's like a metamorphosis of Brandy over
Hmm.
the years. There's so many different if I look back at it, I feel like there's so many different Brandies that I've known,
Always changing, always changing.
always changing. Is that a philosophy that you have on life, or is that just something that just happened?
I think it just happens, and also I'm a Leo, so I get bored and distracted and just want to do like a lot of different things. I'm like all over the place. Like I have a Gemini moon and a Scorpio rising, so it's like
Oh,
a lot of
goodness.
like energy over here. Like I'm like it's a lot of energy, and so I think it just naturally comes to me to be able to transition and be that butterfly and be able to read anyone in the room and process and get along with different types of
I
crowds.
guess that's probably helpful as a flight attendant because you are.
It is very much so. And I think that growing up in Nebraska had a lot to do with that also, being in a predominantly white neighborhood, white environments. I've had to like process like the different type of rooms that I'm in and be able to get along with
Mhm.
everyone. I grew up with no black teachers. I had one black professor in college, the African
I
studies guy.
remember I had him as well. So, yes, I do remember
Yeah,
him.
so that's the only black teacher I've ever had in my life.
Wow. So this
Mhm.
is going to be crazy, but we knew that we were going to be interviewing you today, and Erykah actually did a poll on her Instagram to find out some
Mhm.
questions that people would
Mhm.
want to ask a flight attendant.
Okay.
So, Erykah, why don't you start with some of the questions?
Yes. And I think you might have saw one of them.
I did.
Is this going down? Are
I,
we going to crash?
right. And so that's crazy. So one of the questions that she answered was, "Is this thing going to go down?"
Mhm.
And like a plane literally will not just crash out of the
Yeah.
sky. It is more safe to be in an airplane than it is to be in an automobile.
Yeah. That's what I tell my mom all the time, but she
Hmm.
she still doesn't believe me. So
Yeah.
she'll let
That's
her
what I
know.
tell myself when I'm flying and I get freaked out is
Hmm. Hmm.
to remind myself. What other questions did you
Yeah.
get?
Yeah, so I thought that was the funniest one, just the way that she said it. But so one that aligned with one of the questions that we had, is there any memorable travel experience that you've had that you would like to share since you go everywhere?
I was working at a ramen house in DC for
Oh.
like 5 years. And so, what one of the most memorable trips I remember taking internationally is going to Japan and just experiencing authentic ramen. It
Mm-hmm.
was like, it like blew me away. And so, one of the things that I would do is I would go to different cities and just try to experience the ramens.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was always awesome.
Yeah,
So
I,
we
I
will
did the same thing in Tokyo, so I get
Yeah, yeah,
it.
we will come to
yeah.
you. Maybe that'll be our future blog post. Best places
Mm.
around the
Yeah.
world to get ramen.
Oh, it's a lot of good places.
I bet, yeah, so good. And I guess let's see. Are there secret hacks in the flight world? I guess that only
Mhm.
flight attendants know, kind of like having a secret menu at Burger King or something.
Yeah, so the plane is equipped with so much technology that will just blow your mind. For example, like the armrest,
Hmm.
like instead of climbing over the people, like if this is the armrest, it's a little button right here that you can push so the entire armrest comes up.
Really?
So you don't have to like squeeze in and out. Yeah, and it's literally on every plane. I think that's one of the bigger secrets. A lot of the airplanes that we have also, when you see us like pushing up the
Hmm.
bins, so if the bin right here is like a little click button, and so it goes up easy, and so we just click it, and so it's not like heavy with hundreds of pounds of loads
Oh.
to help our
Wow.
shoulders and make sure that we don't become injured at work.
Oh, that's awesome.
Ooh.
Because I've seen people, like flight
And
attendants
we're just
just
like
like easily like boom, done.
because it's a little click button that we use, yeah, we're closing it like
Oh
that.
my goodness, that's awesome.
Mhm.
And this will be the last one that I ask you. So have you ever met celebrities on planes? And if so, do you have a favorite story to share?
Yeah, I've met many celebrities on planes. So one of the latest celebrities I hung out with, Chance the Rapper and his family.
Oh.
Nice.
I Yeah, there was basically the African Coachella that was happening in January of this year in Ghana,
Hmm.
and so I had the pleasure of transporting his family there and staying there a couple
Oh
days,
wow.
um, and just was at the pool with them the entire time for a couple days, and flew them back. But I did meet Erykah Badu on that trip, and I
Ah.
met Dave Chappelle on that
Oh
trip.
my
Yeah,
goodness. That's
Ooh.
crazy.
yeah, it was a good
I
trip.
feel like maybe I saw pictures on Instagram or
Okay,
something of
okay.
maybe it was Erykah Badu. I don't know. Maybe.
Oh, it
Maybe.
was great.
I've been wanting to go to Ghana forever. Everyone says that is the place that you just
Mm-hmm.
It's
have to
amazing.
go.
It's the place to go. It's the place to
Where
go
Yeah.
where would we
for
go if we
sure.
went to Ghana?
Just the capital, Accra.
Mm-hmm.
hmm The people are amazing. I take trips there. I'll show you a couple things. I take trips to Ghana. So the reason my skin is so smooth and silky is I get this African shea butter by the pounds when I go to Ghana. Like I have to have multiple trips just to go get
Ooh.
shea butter. It's amazing. It's authentic. It's just the best thing out of the country. And it's just these women just that, like authentically like selling shea
So
butter.
where's mine?
I got you.
Okay. I'm
Let me
like,
use
thank
that.
you.
It's one of the gifts. It's one of the gifts that I give out. And so what I also do is I collect random bottles from different
Mhm.
countries, and I can show you some if you want. So this bottle is from. It's a gin that's made in Ghana,
Ooh.
Mm.
and so my bar has a lot of extensive like. You can only get it from that
Uh-huh.
country. I got this bottle from Japan.
Ooh, very
Ooh.
nice.
Mhm. I got this bottle from Ireland.
Oh,
Okay.
that's huge.
Mhm. And then I got this bottle from Munich. And this is so like I
Oh,
just
that's so
love collecting
cute.
like these things, and you can see like it's only things that you can get from duty free from the
Mm-hmm.
airports. So that's one of my hobbies is just collecting different like memorabilia that you can't really get inside the United States. With like I'm not a white henny girl, so that's not a big deal to me. Like you could go bigger than just getting white Hennessy from duty free.
Well, I know that when I come to your house next time, I want like a taste of the world. Kind of.
Okay, I got
Yes,
you.
yes. And Brandy is a fantastic bartender, FYI. When I was at her house a couple weekends ago, she doesn't just pour you a drink. She does the whole fancy shaking it up. All
Mm-hmm.
you get the whole that she will slice
Yeah.
the orange peels and you get the whole experience. So, ooh,
Mhm.
I'm like I might need to make a trip. Did you work this weekend?
Right, I'll be here.
Can I come too?
Right, you can come on over. Come on over. I love hospitality, and so I've been in the culinary industry for a long
Mm.
time. And what I say a lot is there's a difference between customer service and hospitality. And I also realize, like, I transfer that also in the air. So with customer service, for example, someone can just come and give you a cup of water. But with hospitality, they're going to greet you and make you feel like you want to come back and get that cup of water from them.
Hmm.
And that's how I choose to work in my environments.
I wish everyone had that philosophy.
I know, me
There's
too.
nothing worse when you can tell that people don't want to be there.
Yeah, it is.
So, I have another question for you. I so Erica and I the other day we went to the Pride Parade in
hmm
DC,
hmm
and I remember I was kind of disappointed because when I came to your house a few weekends ago, you were going to Black Pride and I wasn't able to go with you, and I didn't even know that we had a separate Pride. So, what's the difference between Black Pride and the regular Pride? What are the different experiences that you would have at each one?
I think the difference is just as a collective, minorities are shut out with when it comes to um, event spaces, funding, federal just protection.
Mhm.
And I think Black Pride is a space for people to enjoy themselves and, just be free and liberated. And not saying that you can't do that at Capitol Pride, but being very honest, Capitol Pride is really catered to white men.
Mm. So, Black Pride. So, what did you do there? I saw a photo. I saw a video of one of your outfits that day, and I hope you send the video
You
because
talk about the assless
the
chaps.
assless chaps, yes, that one. I
Those.
they looked
Yeah, I had my
amazing on
ass
you,
out.
by the way.
I had my ass out. And so I went to a couple events. I have a really good friend who's a DJ, DJ Mim, who sponsors a lot of the parties out here. So I went to a couple of her events and just to a private house party, nothing big. I actually didn't attend any Capitol Pride events this year.
Mm. So I hope you share some of the videos. I'd love to share them with our audience.
Okay,
Because yeah,
I got
those
you. I'll
she
send
had
them to
some
you.
great outfits for Black
Yeah.
Pride that I
Mhm.
feel like viewers would appreciate. So when you
Yeah, I just wanted to show off a little bit this year and just be a summer buddy.
So I want to know, with you traveling all of the time, how do you make time for your other relationships, like seeing your friends? I mean, your schedule is crazy. You sent me your schedule and I'm like, you're gone so many days, you get to come. How do you balance relationships when you have a schedule like you do?
So now I have enough seniority. So flight attendants are hired on a seniority base. And so what you initially come in, you have what we call a reserve. And that's a person who you get your schedule, you know, you're off for a certain amount of days. But in those days that you are not off, you're on call for whatever airline that you're working for. And they can call you for a trip to go to Boston, or they can call you for a trip to go to, you know, around the world. And so now I have what I'm a line holder. I'm an international line holder. And so I know where I'm going every month, but I also have flexibility in my schedule being a line holder. So I can really choose when I want to work and when I don't.
Mm.
So I can pick up trips or I can drop trips. And how we drop trips is we just create an advertisement in our schedule and someone will pick it up if they want.
Nice. So you can, so you, there is some flexibility to be able to plan around certain events.
Absolutely, but that takes time. That takes
Mhm.
time. It takes how whatever company that you're with, whatever their reserve system looks like. That's how it's allowed.
Okay. So I want to get on to some of the juicy topics. Some of
Okay,
the,
let's go.
let's get a little spicy here. When I think of Brandy, I
Okay.
think spicy. So
Oh, I'm respect.
I remember talking about a story. I don't even know if we should be talking about this, but a story about, you mentioned that sometimes when you're traveling, there are coworkers who are meeting up with folks when they land,
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
some countries that may or may not be allowed, I should say.
Right,
Can you tell us that story?
girl. It's so much. So a lot of the times, what flight attendants will do is they'll put their dating app into whatever zip code that they're going
Mhm.
to and interact with people. And so when they land, I mean, it's exciting for a lot of people because they get to come to the hotel, like, and just, you know, be at a hotel in their country, and it's a little vacation for them. And so it's a lot of that going on with people just meeting up at the telly.
Ooh.
Got it. Are there any
Yeah.
like sugar daddies, sugar mamas?
Oh, all the
Oh,
time.
Really?
All the
interesting.
time. So absolutely.
I
Some
think that's a
some
different
regulars?
segment.
It's a lot of it's a lot of pilots who are sleeping with flight attendants and vice
Oh,
versa. A lot of flight attendants sleeping with each other. I mean, because you're on a vacation, you just get to. I mean, if I'm going to be in Hawaii for 3 days, we're going to be drinking, we're going to be having a good time, and then so I think it makes it less stressful to have like meaningful relationships in this industry.
I had a roommate briefly years ago who was a flight attendant. And
Hmm.
she said that they used to have what they called crash pads, where it was like four
Yes.
flight attendants or something that would all kind of share an apartment. A lot of times there
Hmm.
maybe was a pilot or two that lived there as well. Or as you mentioned, a lot of them may have had dalliances with some of the pilots. And I remember her saying she would
Right.
never date a pilot because she felt like
Because they hoes.
I wasn't going to say that. I just,
Yeah, yeah, and traditionally, a lot of flight attendants, you know, they would take on these jobs so they could find a pilot husband. I mean, it's the same thing like a girl going to college just to find a husband. Like
mhm.
it would be a lot of that going on, and then a lot of the times the pilots would take advantage of that mindset and date multiple people at the same time. So going back to the crash pad, when we go through initial training, a lot of the times in this industry, we're coming from different places, but they only give us a choice where we're going to be
Mhm.
stationed. And a lot of the time, that's not where you're living. And so, what you do is you get a crash pad, and a crash pad is an apartment or a house where they'll have multiple bunk beds in one room, and that you only rent out. You can have a cold or a hot bed. A cold bed meaning you're only there. You're only paying there if you want to come there. It's kind of like a
Mhm.
hostel. or you can have a hotbed where you're paying monthly or a couple months in advance, so you know, like, this is my bed.
Oh, so yeah, I did not know that. Have you ever
Hmm.
stayed at a crash pad?
I never had to stay at a crash pad because, fortunately, when I became a flight attendant, DC was my
Okay.
base, and I was already living in DC, so I didn't have to go through
So
that.
going back to, I'm curious, going back to the flight attendants dating the pilots, why would a flight attendant want to date a pilot? Like, what's so great about dating a pilot?
I mean, you get to go to destinations around the
But
world.
wouldn't they already get that from being a flight attendant?
Yeah, but a lot of them are looking. They're looking for someone who has an income that
Mm-hmm.
is, they know, that is stable.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a status thing. Like, we live in America where
Mhm.
pilots are, on a hierarchy than, a mechanic.
Okay.
I mean, you're in charge of hundreds of people's lives when you're flying these planes, and so it's an ego thing.
That is true. I guess. I don't know. I
Mhm.
barely ever get to see the pilots, so a little bit
Yeah.
at the end, so I never know. Do you ever meet any black female pilots?
Oh my God, yes. And I scream every time I see them because they're unicorns. They make up less than 1% of the industry
Wait,
as
tell
a
me how
whole.
you scream. Show me.
Oh my God, it's I love meeting black pilots. It's just so inspirational just to see uh just a black pilot. And I was looking at my Instagram now because I met one recently on my trip to
Mm.
Hawaii. Yes, and she was amazing. She was awesome. So I'll send you that
Yes,
video.
please do. And as you
Mhm.
talk about these trips, are there any benefits that one might get, like me being your friend, from knowing you
Mhm.
as a flight attendant? Like, is there like free flights I could go on, or what?
So we have buddy passes that we get a certain allowance every
Hmm.
year, and so those buddy passes are used for family and friends.
Okay. Okay.
Hmm.
I don't remember.
But the worst thing to do is when you don't know someone and you find out they're a flight attendant, is ask them for a buddy pass. It's the most annoying thing, but we get haggled with it all the time.
Well, going back to our 20 plus years of knowing each other,
Yes, yes, I got you,
and
girl. Like, you're different. You're different.
going
You're
back to that, I don't think I'll have
different.
that problem. So, so
Correct.
I want to ask you, as a lesbian woman, have you faced any challenges being a flight attendant? Has that made your experience any different?
I get called a man sometimes, like,
Really?
especially don't look like a boy, like, don't look like a man. Like, there's nothing. I'm like a feminine
Mm-hmm.
woman, but I chuck it up to people not paying attention, peeing on their earphones, and they're just seeing a bald head walking down the
Mm-hmm.
aisle, and they'll say, "Sir," and then they'll immediately, like, look up for whatever they're doing, their asshole moment, and correct themselves.
Mm. Do you ever
Hmm.
correct them?
I had one dude. I had this white dude. I swear to God, I'm sitting in the back minding my whole black ass business, and he comes up to me and he's like, "You know who you look like?" And I was like, "Who, dude?" And he was like, "Samuel Jackson."
Uh, what did you say?
I won't tell you what I said, but he didn't talk to me for the rest of the flight.
Hmm. I've knowing the Brandy that I know, I can probably imagine some things.
Yeah, yeah. But I don't think I've really experienced like any difference being a lesbian woman. But that is also because I'm a feminine lesbian woman. So my experience will be totally
Mm.
different than someone who has more, will wear jeans and, pants and a suit. Like, I
Mhm.
have a different
Yeah, that's
experience.
true. Well, I imagine that's true. What about?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't think people automatically will be like, oh, she's a lesbian. But some people will. But
Mhm.
I don't face the same
But I
challenges.
guess,
It's a
like,
privilege.
on that note, I mean, the airline industry has changed a lot, especially when it comes to uniforms that their flight attendants are able to wear. So, in that aspect, do you see any additional progressive changes in that way?
I mean, we have trans people,
Mm-hmm.
men and women, who work for my airline specifically, and I've seen pictures. And so we did come out at my airline with a different uniform policy. So if you
Good.
do identify as a different gender that you were born with, you're able to wear, whatever clothes you identify
Mhm.
Oh,
with.
that's awesome. Well, that's good to
Hmm.
know that that's changing.
Hmm.
Mhm.
So, as far as being a Black woman flight attendant, I have to ask because I know that this happens just in other environments where Black people tend to band together as a tribe, right? If you remember our
Yes.
college experience, we all had like our seats that we sat at the lunch table. Is that
Right.
kind of the same in the airline environment? Okay.
Absolutely. For so many years, we weren't hired on by the airlines just because our skin color was different. And so I think, just naturally as a Black person, you do tend to gravitate towards people who look like you because it's a common experience that's shared. And so I just recently went on a trip to Brussels last week with one of my great flight attendant
Hmm.
friends, and she recruited like seven of her friends to come up, and we're all Black. And so that's what we'll do. A lot of times we'll see, like, oh, I know this Black person that's on this trip, so I'm going to hop on this trip. I'm going to trade out this trip because I don't like, I personally like working with multicultural people and not just an all like white setting.
And you would think, I mean, that you would meet all kinds of different people while you're traveling, while you
Hmm.
go out. Are your experiences ever different when you go to different countries? Like, are you ever like, I'm surprised that they love Black women here, or that, it feels uncomfortable to be Black in this country? Have you ever experienced anything like that?
Ghana is my absolute favorite place to go. When I went there, I cried. And when I left, I cried. And one of the reasons why is because I didn't feel like a Black woman. I just felt like a woman.
Mm,
My blackness wasn't overshadowed by me having to change the tone of my voice, or be have my head on a swivel. I just felt like a person.
hmm.
And so one of the places that I don't like frequenting is
Mm,
Paris. We stayed by the Eiffel Tower. And by the Eiffel Tower, a lot of the people who are selling merchandise come from an African
hmm.
background and culture. And so I get treated differently until I open my mouth and they hear that I have an American accent. I get kind of like a until they figure out that I'm American.
Oh
Mm.
wow. But they don't like
Hmm.
Americans there either.
Yeah, but I
Yeah.
don't know. The experience has just been totally different when my accent comes out,
Mhm.
because they initially they they treat me as if I'm like at a lower level, because that's how a lot of Africans unfortunately are treated in Paris.
Hmm. My goodness. What's a country you've been to where you feel like they just love Black women?
Italy,
Really?
they love Black women in Italy.
I've
Absolutely,
heard that as
I
well.
love going to Ireland. Is really really fun. Brussels is really really fun. I love going to Brussels.
I'm gonna have to go. I saw some of your pictures on Instagram over this past week, and I've only been there
Yeah.
for a layover, so I'm like, I need to. You
Oh,
definitely.
Brussels is hands down one of my favorite places to go.
Really?
It's very liberal
Hmm.
there, I've heard. Yeah.
Very.
Yeah, I'm definitely gonna have to. We'll have to add that to one of the agendas
Hmm.
for our
Yeah,
trip.
you
That would be
definitely
so
should.
fun if we booked it when we went to if we went to Brussels at the same time that you were in Brussels. You
Hmm.
could show us all
Yeah,
the
Or
spots.
Ghana. That'd be nice too.
absolutely. Never had a better waffle in my life than from
Really?
Brussels.
Mm. Well,
The
yeah.
Belgian waffles, I mean, that's where they come from.
Woohoo. And what about you said in Ghana, how often do you go there? I'm like trying to book a trip in my mind as we speak.
I was going there quite a lot. So I was going a lot.
Mhm.
So too many times that I can count.
Okay. Maybe we'll have to swing by there when we have our South Africa trip.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
what's something that maybe I forgot to ask that is really cool or shitty or, just something surprising about your job that I wouldn't think to ask?
It's just so flexible, and it's just amazing. Like today, I woke up and there was a trip in what we call
Mhm.
ads. So I was going to go to Cape Town for 6 days, but
Ooh.
then I was like, oh, I can't go to Cape Town for 6 days because I have the podcast to do. But to
Oh.
just wake up every day, yeah, but to just wake up every day and be like, I'm on a group thread. With some of my friends, they're like, Rome is an ad, this is an ads, and this is an ads. So what we do is we clear our schedule
Mhm.
out for the month. We'll take trips off our line. And so when I wake up, I'll know like I can go to so many different places, but it doesn't have to be decided like a month in
I'm
advance.
going to feel guilty now that you passed up a trip to Cape Town.
Cape Town, South
Oh
Africa, yeah. I
man.
mean, that'll come and go though. That's the beauty of my profession.
That's on our list.
Yes.
And it was going to be raining to the yes when I got there too.
Oh,
So I was like,
okay.
so don't feel too bad.
So where do you see your career taking you?
I will never not be a flight
Mm.
attendant just because I have so much flexibility. I'll always, like, I have my real estate
Hmm.
license. Again, I'm always chameleon, but I will always be a flight attendant because I can go to Ghana right now for
Mm.
$10. Why would I give that up?
I want to become a
Like,
flight
I
attendant
know.
now.
I'm sitting here
I would never
thinking, yeah,
give that up. I would never give that up. And then I meet so many different great people, and then to be paid to go stay at a hotel and like live your best life, it's an opportunity of a lifetime, and I'm glad that I stumbled upon it.
So, what does it take to become a flight attendant? Don't you have to go through flight attendant school? I don't know if I even said that properly.
So typically, we have FAA
hmm,
guidelines, and so typically it's anywhere from like 5 to 6 weeks around that you go through
hmm.
training to be able to handle each aircraft door. That's a high focus on to be able to evacuate a plane in an emergency. We go through certifications every year with the FAA to make sure that we're able to do proper CPR, still operate the doors correctly, and so just being able to pass that training that they give us.
How long did it take you?
6 weeks. Yeah, I was in Houston for 6 weeks.
Oh, so they fly you out
Mhm.
somewhere.
Mhm. Mhm.
Well, it's something to think about, Erykah.
I mean,
And it's amazing. It's amazing. And so yeah, once you get that seniority, the job becomes way more flexible than it is in the beginning.
how long does it take to hit that seniority?
It just depends on which airline that you're
Oh,
at, and it also depends on what city you live in. So my seniority wouldn't be the same as if I lived in Houston or
Hmm.
Newark or Atlanta or wherever, Phoenix. Like it just depends on what city and what airline
What
you're
do you
with.
hate the most about being a flight attendant?
What do I hate the most about being a flight attendant? I think that I think in the recent years that people have lost some respect for the
Mm.
airlines, and I see a lot of these videos that are popping up. People just acting like donkey asses just on the plane. And I remember growing up, like being on a flight and being very respectful of flight
Hmm.
attendants. And so I think some of that has diminished
Mm.
because people are looking for and 5 minutes of fame, or they're just not like understanding that like I'm taking my health in consideration also, especially like during COVID, like when masks were required. It wasn't because I didn't, you know, want to wear my red lip today. Like I have to wear a mask. Like, and I believe that each time that I initially got COVID was from the airplane.
And that's what I was going to ask you. Did you see a big change in treatment during COVID? I mean, I kept reading these
Absolutely.
stories.
Absolutely. Like I would avoid routes like going to Texas
Really?
in conservative places because those would be the customers, unfortunately, that would be most unruly.
Wow. And what
Hmm.
what kind of things can you do if people are acting up? Like what resources or what do you have at your disposal to be able to protect yourself when passengers are unruly?
So if the door is open on the airplane, I don't handle them at all. I call a customer service rep and I say they have to go because if you're acting like this already on the ground, then I can't do anything about my safety
Mhm.
and jeopardize that and have you continue to fly with
Mhm.
us. Like, unfortunately, I've had to have people escorted off the plane a couple times, like, especially coming from Las Vegas. If you're throwing up in the bag on the
Mhm.
ground, you have to go. And I don't like, and I've made that mistake once, twice, of allowing someone to continue flying
Mhm.
after they've been sick. And that's always the worst. You're always going to have to use some oxygen or help them.
Oh my goodness. That's so scary, and I
Hmm.
never think about that. You don't think about that really when you're just sitting on the plane. It always seems like someone else's kind of problem, but it affects the passengers as well?
Absolutely. And it's a hazard. It's a health hazard. So if someone is throwing up, like, and then that's in the air, I don't know what's like, it's a literal health
Mhm.
hazard. So it's not because I'm trying to be mean or, don't take account of your
Mhm.
health or you need to go somewhere. We all need to go somewhere. And I don't know the reason why you're drunk. You might be drunk because you're really, really sad, or you might be drunk because you won 10,000 in Vegas. But my concern is the safety of everyone around, you
Yep.
know?
And I guess what happens like if someone does get sick? For instance, I travel a lot, but I do get motion sickness. So there are times where I will get sick on a plane, and I guess a lot of people, like my friends, they won't fly because they do get sick, but then they miss out on a lot of experiences. So I guess what kind of advice would you give to someone that struggles with that?
I mean, whatever remedy helps you, like if you have motion sickness pills, or if you have anxiety, making sure that you're properly medicating yourself if you are on medication, or you have breathing techniques that you know how to do, but something like that, make it your problem and not the people around you's problem.
And I guess, have you ever had any emergencies on planes?
Oh, I've had tons of medical emergencies, and that's just the name of the game. Yeah, just the name of the game.
Have you ever had to be like, is there a doctor on board?
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
Really?
Absolutely.
Oh my goodness.
Absolutely.
And there's always one available?
Usually there is.
Okay.
I've never had a situation where there wasn't a medical professional available on board.
Wow. I always see that on TV or commercials or something, and I always think that that's just, a story, but that happens.
Yeah, usually it is. Oh, absolutely. I've never had it where there wasn't someone who was trained properly to be able to assist us.
I have a question before I forget to ask you. What about like what are they called? The agents on planes, like the police officer
like
type.
Undercover.
Do they have those on every plane? Is that a thing, or is that just?
No, not on every plane. No, but there are people who are there to federal air marshals to protect us.
Do you always know when they're on the plane, or is it just
we are required to know that they are present?
Okay. But it's not on every flight.
Mm-mm.
Wow. Interesting. Do they blend in? Do you just kind of
I just don't that's just a secret, like a topic that I can't really go into deeply.
Okay.
But they are available for us.
Okay, good. Yeah. We don't want to spill any deep secrets, but I've always wondered about that. I've seen that, and I look around sometimes on the flight, and I'm like, "Ooh, are you an air marshal, or what's going on?" So just curious about that. So, what advice would you give to someone who's interested in becoming a flight attendant? What would you tell them?
Do your research. If you have an apartment lease that you can't get out of, or make sure you have funds saved up. Research which airline that you want to be with. There are legacy airlines. We call them mainland airlines, and then we have regional airlines. And the difference is the main airlines, we will fly internationally, or a regional airline, which will only fly domestic trips. So just see what kind of lifestyle you want to be in. Like, some people hate flying internationally, and some people don't like flying domestic. So just research each company and see where their bases are, and if you are able to move to that base, if you're selected to go there.
And just to close it out, what advice would you give to your younger self, given where you are now?
My advice to my younger self would be just continue to travel and travel more, and don't let any type of insecurities or struggles or anxiety get in the way of you just being authentic to yourself.
That's great advice.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much. It has been a pleasure having you here. I'm already making plans to come to your house and taste all of those.
Okay, good. I got you. I got you.
All of those. I'll bring Erykah with me.
Yes.
Okay, come on down.
We'll come over there. Thanks again so much. This has been great. I learned a lot. And you're definitely welcome to be on our show again. That would be amazing.
Okay, I love you.